Okay. Okay, bom.
So good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's a really honor to be here with you to talk about a very simple topic. The context that they gave us. I think that we can, close it all in like 5 minutes, right? Managing culture and technology. Of course, that we would like to bring some enrichment into this contest for all of you. My name is George Jamil. I'll be the moderator of this session. I'm very honored to be here sharing the stage with those four professionals. And through our debate, we would like to talk about our experiences and to explore a little bit more this complex system with the cultural and how it impacts the technologies and alterations, transformations. We're talking about the management methods in the companies, in the market, in the organizations. So I would like to start from this side. Would like to start from here, so we can just quickly introduce yourself, so we can go on, and then we start, talking a little bit further. Okay, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here with you to talk to you about this. My name is Marco Sirelli. I am computer engineering. I work at Porto Seguro as a CIO, and I'm responsible for the technology segment. I have an experience in the business market, so I worked in big banks. I had the opportunity to be a partner in a soft house. So technology has always been present in my life. And more recently, I'm getting more integrated in the people's resource and management part of the segment. So we know that somehow we are related with the services from Porto. So the goal from Porto is to bring benefits and convenience for our customers. So good morning, everyone. I would like to start for thanking for the opportunity to be here with you. My name is Ícaro Vilar. I'm from Ribeirão Preto, from Ipatinga. So I've been living in Ribeirão Preto for 15 years. I went there. So I chill for Cruzeiro. It's a soccer team. So I'm quite happy with my team right now. I'm a father. I have a daughter called Gianna, and currently I am a CEO from AmorSaúde and International President from Cartão de Todos, which are two family companies that were founded by my father, and I've been in the family company since I was 13 years old, so I think that I do have a little bit of knowledge regarding management technologies. I've been around from different segments of the company, so that's about it. Hello. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here participating in this panel talking about this digital transformation through culture. And I'm actually been involved with technology for the last 30 years, but the part that I like the most, I would say that is the last 20 years that I focused my journey on cell phones and internet. And this is well related with the digital transformations. So I'm one of the founders from Movili, which controls the iFood. So we do have a lot of stories to talk about all the reinventions that we've done throughout the years. So thank you so much for the invitation to be here with you. My name is Igor. I have more than 25 years of experience. I have a degree in system analysis. I also cheer for Cruzeiro Soccer Club, but I've been living in São Paulo for the last 22 years. I have a journey where I worked on Itaú, a huge bank. So I also worked on Livelo as CIO, and now I've been on XP for the last 13 months. So I'm really happy to be here, and I believe that the transformation, the digital transformation, and the main pillar, sometimes I believe it's the technology, but at the end of the day, it's culture. Our people that are involved, in how we work. Technology is just like a side effect of all of it, let's put it that way. So once again, thanks for the opportunity. Okay, so let's start. Thank you so much for being here today. So I'd like to invite Andres to talk to us. So this question goes to you all. So from your professional experience, what were the main cultural changes or the cultural experience that you had during like your decisions regarding how to implement a technology or how to invest in a technology? How did you actually feel that you were changing the culture of your company and the culture of the sector? Whoa, great questions to start with. So for the last 20 years that I've been working on the mobile segment, the year that really, was impressive to me was 2010, when we refounded our company. So we used to be a tech company from the essence of the word tech. So 95% men in the company. There was no human resources. So there were no people, there were only like human resources. And we remade our company. So we took the whole company to an event in Teresópolis. We had 2 days. And the first day we spent the whole day just discussing, values and purpose. So for an IT company, it was very difficult to bring people to be in front to be in front of the cell phone, not on the cell phone. So we had to put, we had the CEO, the vice president regarding people and management, and the other directors. So I would say that above all the other directories, we put people, and that was like the main pillar from it. And do you believe that this was a standard culture that the competitors acquired as well? Do you think that this somehow changed the way that the organization worked? Well, starting from the main startups, yes, definitely. The big startups, let's put it that way, the ones that became huge, the unicorn startups, they are all been following this journey. I believe that Movies was one of the beginners, We even played a game, like a board game about it. But I think that, most of it came after the pandemics, either during or after the pandemics. And it's a digital transformation that is a little bit fake, that has actually not happened, in fact. I believe that the transformation, the high techs, they moved on. The bulk came on the pandemics, but what has really changed were the executive board, not the companies themselves. So I participated in a group that we are 800 executives, and we're discussing the new career format. And the companies didn't really change, Yesterday, for example, they released a report from LinkedIn. Only 15% of the job in the United States are remote, So we are actually going back to the prior pandemics era, and the executive, they don't want it, So I think that we are somehow going on that same journey. So I'd like to invite Igor to talk a little bit about the definition of the cultural definition that your organization brought to the sector. So how do you see this cultural shift? I think that the biggest lesson that I had in my life that was responsible for, making my values, me and my brothers. My father was responsible for the metallurgics group in Ipatinga, and he used to work for the union, and we really learned from it, from the collective, from, caring about our next human being, looking at their needs of the other person as something that will take us towards another end, So those values are very important, and they are deep in our companies, and somehow they are part of our culture. So in the last few years, we've been going towards we're focusing more on the customer. So we have like the customer at the center. And also we've been guiding with the data, we have to be data oriented. So I think that years ago we would be going more like on faith, let's put it that way, but now we're looking more into data to, have our huge decisions. So I think that the most technological changes that happened was in Cartão de Todos, which was a recurrence economy model. So we were really, we were responsible to, the light bills, So in 2014, we started using like the e-commerce in our model, and from then onwards, we were able to improve the recurrence of those modalities and therefore expand it to different markets. Okay, this is fantastic, but I think that what we just spoke about it, what I find very interesting is that you bring from the culture regarding the collective, the social, you put some values that nowadays new organizations are trying to create, to have like a balance, a social balance within their actions. So the organizations, they were built on index, performance index, very market-centered matrix, sometimes using the ESG studies, governance, reputation, and so on. So it seems to me that those values from you were right from the beginning. Yes, we literally learn at home. My father was responsible for the metallurgics union, so we've been to different experiences, and we realized how important it is to have a leader that thinks about the collective, And then later, when he left the union and he founded the Cartão de Todos, we were able to follow him throughout the different steps. And then now I think that when you're talking about values, it's very difficult to teach values. You'll have to live it, to absorb it, I cannot, teach others about my sense of collective, I can only do that through actions. So, people, they have to observe it with their experiences and learn from it. Okay, great. And I would like to hear from Marco regarding your culture as a leadership company. How did you feel that you were actually, on a cultural differentiation movement in the sector? Well, I think that we went through different stages, I think that maybe the most recent ones, Porto was always very concerned regarding customer service, So the brand has always been associated to the quality of service. And the biggest digital challenge was, how can you become close in a familiar service with the digital channels? So Porto's been to different stages throughout this process, and cultural transformation. Our, insurance sector, it's more conservative, we have to do the risk evaluation. So it was a huge challenge. How can we actually get Porto engaged into this new journey? And what I'd like to highlight here for you is what happened in 2015, when we decided to be closer to the startups ecosystems when we created Oxigênio. Oxygen was our startups accelerator that was created in 2015, and we didn't have a lot of references here in Brazil. So we looked for plug and play, for a partner that would bring some experience from the Silicon Valley So in Brazil, we worked with Distrito, and we were able to learn a few issues, but we really wanted to do on our own way. So in the beginning, we had like big internal discussions about what is the main goal of oxygen at Porto. Do we want to find a unicorn? Do we want to get a lot of money from it, earn money from it? So we had to do a lot of discussions to think how we could change the culture from these startups ecosystems. And we came up to the concept that the main goal of the oxygen and Porto was to change the mindset of the executive board, So how does a company works with like resources, lack of resources? So sometimes it's very hard, for a company that is 75 years old already, has their own markets well established, to understand, how to break into new areas. So this was one of the huge movements that we had, and we established a model where each board member would adopt a startup. So as the main goal was to get close to the business, but we wanted those executives to learn from the startups. And with the IT department as well, it was a huge learning curve, using technologies, new models, as it happens in most of the markets. So we really wanted to learn about this movement with oxygen.
Now we have different challenges. I think we were able to evolve a lot, and now we're seeing a new phase of this market, and we're starting to learn again how the more mature startups in this market, in the financial market, what do we expect from a company like ours, what is our position in this market, and I think that this has been the most recent change from the cultural perspective. And obviously with the pandemic, there's the home office work model, which startups already considered for a long time. So there's been a lot of engagement with cultural transformations in the company. Yeah, the whole sector went through big demand, and people started to value their own properties. And I've seen from another executive from the insurance segment that they all went to look for them because everybody felt at risk. Particularly life insurance, which was some insurance that was really sold, was really in demand due to the pandemic. Igor, please, regarding the cultural situation in your life. Sure, it's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to talk about an effective change that the technologies segment has promoted. The XP CTO is called Thiago Mafra. He was the CTO until recently, and he was awarded by Benchmark, by the council president, as CEO of XP. And this shows that the technology segment, and technology is essential today, not only for deliveries and digitalization and digital transformation, but it's also for decision making and identifying the correct pathway, and that makes sense in the transformation of this company. So sometimes we're used to the fintechs and the large native digital companies, because the transformation department rises up together with other areas, but they have several other companies that were not able to experience this effective change, with the technology team taking part in decisions to build the products, the technology team really taking decisions in the company. And I think that for that the human factor, the cultural factor is essential. Those technicians, those who were only working in their own areas, delivering code or software, or that CTO who has the characteristics of a single infrastructure to really deliver the technical behavior, they don't have a place anymore. Now we need more professionals with a wider perspective. They know about the business model, about the organizational model. They need to know also about the daily routine of all of these transformations. They need to be good with people. They have to work with the culture of the company. They need to be more complete professionals, and they're essential for the transformations that we need to do. And I always emphasize that transformation is not the technique, is the instrument used doing this transformation, but needs to come from a genuine will for this transformation of the products and the services, and the technology comes with it. And I've had experience in my recent past where the technology agenda was purely about technology. Sometimes it was not even understood because you could change A for B, and for the people it seemed the same for A seems the same for B. So why did I invest a lot of money to have all this transformation, and we have the same thing in the end? So this agenda of pure technology that is not related to the daily routine doesn't work anymore. That's what I believe. I think this is the change. This effective transformation involves everyone, not for a purely cultural issue, but to enable the transformation of these companies. Very nice. I think you already gave us some good basis for the next thing we're going to discuss, which is the technological context. I asked you a little bit about culture, but now let's talk about technology itself. I'd like to know, from your experience, what do you consider in terms of technological resources or technological implementation that has been your calling card? The reason why you're proud of your company, the reason why your company has a competitive advantage in the market. So what is the technology that you think that really make this happen in this market? And additionally, so that we don't talk about the beauty part, what were the risks when adopting these technologies, internally and externally? Ícaro, can you start with your experience, please? Sure. Well, for our calling card, we are going through that process. At Cartão de Todos, we are focused on classes C and D of our population. So we have always been very analogical in our processes. One of the plans that we have for 2023, and that Vitor commented in his introduction, is zero paper for next year. And this involves from eliminating the physical contract that people had to sign, which is surreal, but it still exists, for salesmen to be able to send through the mobile phones the contract with the acceptance, and the customers can pay using their own smartphones as well, and then the customer can go into his own wallet to see the balance for the cashback and everything. What are the partners that are available to work with this? And when we think about AmorSaúde in the practices, we also had in our schedule, in our development, the use of electronic medical records, telemedicine, electronic prescriptions, and so on. And all of this was a little bit anticipated because of the pandemic, right? And it hasn't been an easy job. It hasn't been easy work. We have faced some resistance. I think the electronic medical records is overcome. I mean, we have to shove it down people's throats. It's going to have to be like this. There's no way of coming back. But if you look at this medical records itself, we know it's not complete. There's still some things missing, right? Diagnosis, hypothesis, prescription of tests and medications, which should be part of the medical history. Sometimes you see it's approximately 50% of tests, prescriptions, medications, 35%, so it's a little bit worse. This should all be part of those 98% of this electronic medical records. So there's still some obstacles for us to overcome to implement our system. But from the customer perspective, these obstacles are a little bit harder to overcome. There's a cultural aspect involved with this, that customers, they really were really instructed to go to the basic health unit and do their appointments and so on. So currently, if you look at the scheduling channel now, 16% of the customers use the app. cartão de todos, or AmorSaúde. 2% use the website, and the rest comes from use the telephone, so it's still analogical customers. So some practices still have to inform the phone number of these medical practices. So we had some progress, but there are still a lot of obstacles to overcome. Thank you for your description. Let's hear Marco with his experience regarding technologies that are very important and the risks and problems in their implementation. Well, we don't have one specific piece of technology that is the leading technology. We have a set of technologies, like I said in our presentation, what Porto wants to bring to the customers, which is convenience. And when we talk about Porto, it was always Porto Seguros, and now we are being called Porto because there are different business verticals. Porto Banking, Porto Saúde, there are different verticals. So technology has been really important to enable the integration of these services to bring convenience to our customers. And we've always tried to bring this integration between insurance and services. We were the first insurers to do it in Brazil, to really offer home services, for example, if you have auto insurance, credit card as a means to pay insurance and services. So technology is one of the big differentials for Porto in this market. But the big differential is the connection between these services to generate integrated convenience to our customers. So, for example, we have Connect Car as part of our services. So a customer can use Connect Car, pay with his credit card, and gaining benefits for discount for his insurance. So this is enabled by different types of technology that do this integration and promote this to the customer. So I believe that the challenges that we're looking for now is that we need to look at a network of partners and not because for a long time we've been discussing these different segments, and it has been the same in the insurance market, to gain efficiency with the technology, to digitalize the internal processes and gain efficiency. But now I think the game is integration. How you establish yourself in a platform, how you position yourself within all of these platforms, and the big challenges now associated to really information security, how you're going to handle customer data, this more broad integration, and how you change this culture of connection. So being prepared to establish partnerships in a quick way and in a very effective way, and that makes sense to the entire ecosystem, is one of the big challenges. We are not always ready to do so, but sometimes what we try to do is really to try to look ahead, look into the future, to anticipate things, and both by creating technical structures that are able to respond quickly, but also stimulating our partners to be ready, because we know that we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle at the same time in our ecosystem, so we need strong partners. And I think this is one of the big ways Porto uses this technology. Andreas, I'd like to hear from you, your experience about the focus on technology. What do you think is your leading technology from your experience as a leader, and what are the obstacles, the issues that you have to adopt this technology? Well, when we focus on technology, I'd like to talk about one of the pillars of culture dissemination, which is communication. The communication technologies, well, when I answer your question, I'm passionate for telecom. That's I was there to build the first SMS networks here in Brazil, for Grupo, for Big Brother, and then for Visa, to really bring the audience and start to digitalize this interactivity with television and the anti-fraud systems of the financial market with SMS. And this was the first wave of using communication technology to really disseminate the automation of these companies. The second wave was multimedia messaging, and we use barcodes to have checking for the TAM airline and this was a big victory for us. And the third wave with the arrival of 3G and telecom built the basis of communication. And then we could use the browsing systems, streaming systems, and at the time we created Play Kids, which is a success, more than 50,000 customers per month. And now the most impacting wave is the one that we're living now, is the 4G wave, which really allowed us to integrate online services with offline services in our city. So for example, those taxi drivers who were offline became online. The guy who was frying burgers at his burger joint or baking pizzas at his pizza joint, they became online. And I think this was the revolution that digitalized these companies. And this revolution really came with the COVID pandemic. So the digital platforms grew so much that they were now called ecosystems. They're no longer a platform, they're ecosystems. And this brought new challenges, just to wrap up about this revolution, which is the fifth revolution, which is the 5G wave now. And why 5G? 5G's tripod is blockchain, IoT, and AI. Because the companies are too big, too powerful, and no one wants a world with 5 technology companies. We want to decentralize it, and now we have some DAOs, with the autonomous organizations, and that's why I founded Netspace, to work a little bit with 5G, and this is going to affect job positions as well. If you study a little bit about artificial intelligence, you see that the middle layer basically disappeared. We have the leaders and the slaves and the gig economy. It's very concerning situation, a very serious situation, and I'm really connected to telecom. I think that telecom with 5G, we're going to have a new revolution, and it will be stimulated by blockchain. Yeah, I have a perspective that most of these innovations, these changes, we don't pay attention to them because they're absorbed, like you mentioned, the case of the consolidation of 4G, which was, we were forced to do it. We were all confined at home to save our lives due to the pandemic, and then we had to use 4G technology from overnight. We started valuing these platforms, the payment methods, but we forget about the infrastructure. We forget if the infrastructure wasn't there in a reliable way, we wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah, like you mentioned, it became omnipresent. All these offline and online systems were connected and people were at home. And this is related to what I mentioned here in the first place regarding the executives being more ready for this transformation, and the executives were even more ready than the companies. The companies haven't reset yet. They didn't hand over their offices, but they have the same offices of the same size, and this is not going to be the same in the future. The companies would really like the professionals to come back to the offices, like the case of Apple in the United States, who called everybody back to the offices, and the executives, the employees don't want to come back anymore. So now we have this fifth wave, which is going to be really interesting, when executives have already changed. They don't want the unique salary. They want to have their salaries like, why should I have my salary from one company? And we want like investments to have different funds. The executives want, I want my company and other projects, and the companies need to follow up. Let's hear from Igor a little bit about technology and the risks and impacts that are associated. Yeah, I think that technology today became a commodity. It's available for everyone. When we talk about the main transformational elements, we talked about telecom, we talked about the basic infrastructure, the cloud is available, there's SAS, PAS, we have the apps and the development of this app ecosystem, either online or on the web or at mobile devices. all is a commodity. So I think the great thing here in the companies that I work and I worked with is the relevance of what you do. So if you have a customer that is an investment customer, how can I bring different values that technology enables using other products and services that make this ecosystem even more valuable? A real case from XP that is known in the market is the card. It was something that investment customers need to add value and bring value by means of investback and other payment methods. And very quickly with this ecosystem, bringing some external elements, so external and internal solutions, this capacity of transformation and execution, we brought new services and more relevance to this context. So this is the great element of innovation, and that's why the technology is now a commodity that's available to everyone, because the companies are more and more relevant in the ecosystem of the people that use their product and services. If you lose this factor, this relevance, by adding other factors like Igor mentioned, like Porto mentioned, how can you make things more relevant? So if I'm here in this ecosystem, I'll bring my insurance, I'll bring my payment, and with these questions, with these whys, you can add value and bring more benefits. I think that the technology really adds value and make this company more relevant within the context of these customers, bringing better service, better post-sales, better journeys, more fluid journeys within this context, and especially that this person can use the products and service in a broader way, but in a way that is more substantial for their lives and their experiences. I think the companies.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for that. So Anderson was a little bit more emphatic, but I think that Igor also mentioned that we are actually looking for a new type of professional. So we need this new professional to have the right, education. So what do you think that are the competencies, regarding technology management and culture? What do you think that we should have, on the package of the education of those new professionals? Well, I think that as we already mentioned, this professional, it has to, have more capabilities, than just like, being able to play in different environments. I would say that something that's very important is communication. When you're talking about technology is a very technical and specific topic for certain sectors. I think that the biggest difference would be how you communicate with your internal and your external public about what's being done, what's the main goal. The engagement is very well aligned with purpose, values, what are actually giving back to the society. So those professionals that are not able to communicate themselves, they will not, be good professionals. So we're talking about, not only like just being able to talk to each other, but but it's more like how you position yourself on social media, how do you engage within your family, how do you tolerate the differences. I think all of it, it's part of what's different, and this is what the new generation expects. They want to be able to stand up to develop, but in an environment that allows this to happen. I cannot imagine, especially when we're talking about the hybrid type of work, where we won't have the personal contact with the other. If you don't have a leadership that knows how to communicate and is able to pass on the message in a very efficient manner, I think that you are able to work and serve a very specific demand, but this is not the type of professionals that we demand in the future. Great. I'll try to say something different because you spoke beautifully, and I probably would say the same as you did. But I believe that we had a participation on the previous panel, and they talked about the multitask professional, which is the professional that knows a little bit about everything. I kind of I'm a little bit curious. I'm curious by nature, so I do like to learn a little bit about everything. Some of them I'm better than others, of course. So I always enjoyed, knowing how to do different things at the same time. I think that communication is really important for everything that we'll be doing. As Marcos mentioned, internally for our internal public and also for our external public. So we should be able to talk to all the audiences and explain why. And to say something different from what Marcos has just mentioned, I would like to add, which is creativity, to be creative, it will be more valued in the future. And I believe that creativity comes from the experiences that you live and from the connections that you are able to do from the experiences that you lived. So there is one sentence that I really like, a quote that says that you are able to observe just by looking. So the act of looking and observing allows you to learn, and then later on you are actually able to make connections and then bring those connections back to your daily basis and put some of them in practice as innovations on your personal routine or on your professional routine. Anderson, please. Okay, so I'd like to collaborate from different ways of looking to the same problem. I'll probably think about the behavior. The higher the executive, more in shock this executive is with the new reality, because he used to use the structure, the office, the meeting room, as an empowering tool. Let's call it the chief, let's put it that way. But this new professional, he has to be less chief, less boss, and more leader. So more leadership. Something that's really going on, that really surprises me is, those leaders, they have to understand that communication has to be asynchronous. So I see, people saying, look how many meetings I had today, I've done one Zoom after the other. Something's wrong. Probably you're just like, making wrong use of your time. So what I'm trying to do, I'm usually doing like small videos on Slack. So if I want to speak to someone, why should I ask him to stop whatever he's doing for like 15 minutes? I can, record a video and then he can watch it on his own time. So more asynchronous communication, almost like a TikTok, like 3-4 minute videos. I think they really change the performance of the professionals from the future. It's complicated, because you guys spoke so much already. But there is one word that really calls my attention, when we're talking about the future professional, it's the capacity to create connections. So we talk a lot about our remote model and experience that we have recently experienced, but one element and a very important skill and competence that we cannot lose is our ability to connect, and connect through reliability, through trustfulness. So sometimes I feel like this is getting a little bit colder, let's put it that way. And I don't think that the remote system is a problem. I actually find it as a solution, but we should always, be looking for this capacity of, being reliable in whatever you do. So if you cannot be reliable, we won't be able to deliver. You won't be able to have long-term relationships. So you won't be able to have an effective transformation capacity. It cannot be cold. It cannot be unhuman. So, of course, adding to the communication flexibility, but also the emotional intelligence is something that we cannot lose along the way, because it's a human condition. But we need to have connections through reliability and trust. So I think they are mandatory in order to survive in this world and to make the difference. Okay, Marco, please go ahead, and then let's. I think you can go ahead and we have like about 1 minute for every single one of us. Just would like to say a comment, specific questions that I think that we are undergoing right now. Pandemic has brought us an emotional instability, and we are talking about a generation of people that have lived some impact on their education. So we have to be resilient to the different, to the constant change. So I think that the professional cannot suffer with the changes, but I have to be able to look at the bright side of it. What are the benefits and what can be gathered as positive from those changes? So these emotional characteristics, how do you deal with that, on your work environment, at home, on families? So I think that the pandemic kind of isolated the human beings, but we have to dissolve this as fast as possible so we can move forward. As my final consideration, I just would like to say that it was such a pleasure to be here with you. I think that we could spend hours, talking about different aspects of these topics, but I really hope that we were able to really, inspire you from the reflections that we had. So thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation. It was an honor to be able to participate in this roundtable. Let's put it that way. And my final message is get close to those that can trigger you to see the world from a different point of view. I think this is how like the unexpected happens, So the more diversity, the more plurality of ideas, the better is the environment. And then a final comment, because I worked for a long period with innovation, then what I would like to tell you is that the innovation department does not exist anymore, after this global shock that everyone had to become digitalized. Now we have companies, and the companies, they have to be very innovative. And then what I would like to leave here for you is, is smaller cycles, a lot of asynchronous communication, less plan, more execution, enough of doing planning, enough of guiding towards the solution, but let's focus on the real problem, This is like a mantra from the innovation department. It has to go through the whole company. The company has to live as the whole company was like an innovation area. So we gotta have like short-term objective, focusing in the main problem. Okay, so as my final comment, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's such an honor to be able to be here participating with you guys in this process. So something that really pops up in my head right now and that I'd like to leave as a message is like take more risks, This is something that I really requested on XP. XP is a very it's a company that takes a lot of risks, We take the risk, but we learn from them, So we like to do something different. So take more risks because the world is open for this flexibility, for these transformations. And for that, we got to take risks. New technologies, new transformation processes. So, make the most of it, take the risk, make mistakes. And this is all part of the context that we're living right now. So once again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Okay, guys, so I would like to, close this session right on time. So I hope that we were able to at least, had a little feeling of the topic, because we know that these topics could be spoken for 10 minutes, 10 days, or 10 hours, and we still have a lot to talk about it. So I really hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you enjoyed the whole event, and you have a great day, with huge fruitful discussions. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Vamos.